This is an instructional video to cover additional selection and display options within the 3D Perspective Viewport of OptiTrack's Motive software. The third set of buttons in the Perspective View toolbar are Enable Selection buttons. In some instances, we may only want to include certain object types while selecting in the 3D Perspective View. We can turn on and off the ability to select objects through these Enable Selection buttons for markers, cameras, rigid bodies, skeletons, and assigned markers. If we are working from a low angle where cameras are visible behind the performer and we do a rope selection, then markers, skeletons, and cameras are all selected. Let's say we only want to select markers though. If we turn off the enable selection for cameras and skeletons, then rope select all of the markers on the performer, cameras and skeletons are not included. When these buttons are highlighted blue, they are able to be selected. By default, all options except for assigned markers are enabled. The fourth set of buttons are for visual aids and give options to turn on and off different visual elements in the 3D workspace. We can quickly show or hide markers, show or hide skeletons, and show or hide rigid bodies, or do any combination of the three with these buttons. The first option under Visual Aids is for assigned markers. The assigned markers are where the associated skeleton or rigid body expects the markers to be in the 3D space, based on constraints defined during the skeleton calibration or rigid body creation process, and are displayed as a transparent gray color. We can see these here as I scrub through the take. We can display the marker count and see how many markers are in the scene at the current frame and how many markers are selected on the current frame. If we enable marker labels, the name of any selected unlabeled or labeled marker will display. An unlabeled marker will simply be called marker and then have a number. A labeled marker associated to a rigid body will have the rigid body's name with a marker number. A labeled marker associated to a performer will have the performer's name, a segment name, and a marker number. Marker history will display the path of a selected marker in the 3D viewport over time. This option is currently only available for takes that have not been trajectorized. By loading a non-trajectorized take and selecting a marker, we can see the path of that marker. Now, switching back to the take that has been trajectorized, if we enable 2 marker distance and then select 2 markers, we can see the distance in millimeters between those 2 markers on the current frame. 3 marker angle will allow us to view an angle between 3 selected markers. For example, if we select this front right hip marker, the right knee, and the right ankle, we can see the angle on a frame-by-frame basis over time. The next visualization options are for tracked, untracked, and missing rays. Camera rays are only visible in the live mode or in files that have not been trajectorized. The topic of camera rays warrants its own video because of how useful they can be, so we will skip these options for now. If we enable capture volume, we will see a general coverage map represented by cubes. This is helpful to see how we have aimed the cameras and checked coverage of the setup. We can also choose whether or not to display the coordinate axis in the bottom left corner of the perspective window. We can choose to display the camera labels, which display right over our cameras. If we zoom in on a camera, we can really see what this option does. In this video, we covered additional selection and display options within the 3D Perspective Viewport of OptiTrack's Motive software. Thank you for watching, and be sure to check out all of the Motive software videos for additional training.